Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Liverpool. We've waited, 3 months for a Liverpool game, and then we get 2 games in the space of a week. And this game against Crystal Palace was very much Liverpool back to their best, back to their winning best, back to the team that we got so used to before the lockdown, the team that were just dismantling any team both in Europe and in the Premier League, and were just, showing us why they were, 20, 23 points now it is, ahead of any other team in the Premier League. Just kind of everything worked and went well in the game, really. The players were very clinical in their finishing, the passing and all the moves we tried all kind of came off, and it just felt like one of those games where everything just clicked. And I think there's a few reasons why that is the case, and I want to go through them in this episode. But one of the big reasons why I think that was that we were kind of back to our strongest 11. Before we went into lockdown, if you were to ask kind of any Liverpool fan what was our strongest 11, I think it would have been the exact team that was named by Jurgen Klopp for this game against Crystal Palace. And there's obviously a couple of queries. I think the Wijnaldum one is an interesting one, whether we have Wijnaldum or Keita or even Oxlade-Chamberlain in that position. But I think for me, Wijnaldum showed in this game why he's so important and why he's kind of part of that best 11 for Liverpool. And I think another reason why that is our kind of strongest 11 is one word, and that is balance. Both in terms of kind of the balance we get in the width with a left footer like Andy Robertson at left back and obviously Trent at right back, but then also in the way that Gomez and Van Dijk complement each other as well, with both of them with pace, very good on the ball. Joe Gomez sometimes drops back and is the last defender, sometimes Van Dijk drops back. They kind of have that really, really good relationship. And then the way kind of Wijnaldum, Fabinho and Henderson rotate in the midfield is very, very interesting. So if you watch the game, you will see at some points in the game, Fabinho is actually the furthest midfielder forward, kind of leading the press. And then it's kind of Henderson maybe who sits into that position. But then at other times when we're kind of playing out from the back, it's Fabinho that picks up the ball, and then Henderson is more in that kind of inside right channel, or even further out on the wing, supporting Trent and Mo Salah. And then the final bit of the kind of whole balance of this Liverpool squad is that front three, with Mane and Salah both kind of being the wrong foot for their wing and both coming inside. That obviously naturally leaves the space in the wide positions for Trent and Robertson to get into, which is kind of what they need and what they want. But then it also, for us, then it also causes a threat in behind, which is kind of what we lacked against Everton. We didn't really threaten to run in behind them. Everything was all kind of very in front of them. But I think all of those kind of cogs and all of those bits put together just mean that we have a very, very kind of balanced team. It doesn't look like we're forcing anything. Everything looks very natural in terms of the passes we play, in terms of the turns the players make in the middle of the pitch. Everything seems very natural, which just makes everything flow more easily. Which is why I think we created a hell load more chances in this game, and why we went on to score 4 goals, whereas we struggled to get 1 against Everton. As I mentioned at the beginning there, we were very clinical and technical with our play. The passes into feet, there were no heavy touches, there were no misplaced passes. There just wasn't any rust that we saw against Everton. And obviously, we've had 3 days, so what's that, probably 2-3 training sessions. But maybe it was kind of just that match experience, match atmosphere, rust that the players needed to get off before they could really kind of, get back to their winning ways. And as I mentioned right at the beginning of this episode, we really, really did look like ourselves from before the lockdown, in terms of the way we pressed high, in terms of the way the front three linked up. All of those different aspects were very reminiscent of what we saw kind of pre-March, and what has put us in this kind of crazy position that we are in the league, where we're just 1 win away now, or a Man City loss, from sealing our first Premier League title in 30 years. So it was just great to see. It was very, very easy on the eye. Watching the game, it was one of those games where it makes you really proud to be a Liverpool fan. You see how great the team plays, like how well everything worked. Crystal Palace, I think they were really, really impacted by the Wilfried Zaha substitution. I think a lot of their game was based on being able to kind of punt the ball forward, and for him and Jordan Ayew to kind of press and try and lead a break. But when he went off, kind of Max Meyer is a very different type of player, and they kind of never really got a foothold in the game because right at the beginning, Zaha came off quite early, and then after that they kind of were very, I'd say, passive in their play. Obviously, Alisson I think did nothing all game. Maybe he had one shot that went way over his bar, but other than that, Alisson was a spectator for most of the match. The first goal was something that we've seen before, right? Even if I think back to Trent's first goal for Liverpool, the Hoffenheim free kick. But this goal really reminded me of the one he scored against Watford away. I think it was last season, where it was a similar kind of position, and as he starts kind of very kind of horizontal to the ball, which lets him get that real whip. It was a great free kick. Couldn't have placed it any better. Keeper stood no chance. Wall stood no chance. And it was just your perfect free kick. If you're ever going to watch a compilation of perfect free kicks, i.e. the ones hitting the postage stamp, then that was one of them. And it was a fantastic goal, and it did look like it was going to have to be a set piece that we kind of scored from to open up the game, because Crystal Palace were defending very deep with lots of men behind the ball. There's nothing wrong with that. That was the kind of tactic they came to play with, but it was going to be. It was already evident that it was going to be tough to break them down. But that set piece goal really, really helped us and kind of set us on the way for that and for this emphatic win. And after that, Crystal Palace, you may have assumed may have come out a bit more, pressed a bit higher up the pitch, but they kind of retreated into their shell a bit, and it almost at times seemed like they were playing like a 5-5-0 formation with Jordan Ayew dropping so back deep. It kind of was no outball for them at all. And as soon as they were able to clear the ball, Van Dijk and Gomez were able to win it back immediately. And they were playing so far in Crystal Palace's half that there was just no respite at all. And this was kind of shown in the second goal just before half-time, where Fabinho picked the ball up and he was kind of, 15, 20 yards into the Crystal Palace half with time on the ball and was able to clip the ball over. We've seen that so many times from him. That's one of his definite specialities that he does kind of better than really any of the other midfielders we have. And Salah making a really, really perfectly timed run. Once he was in behind Van Aanholt, there was only ever going to be one result there. And we went 2-0 in at half time. So we couldn't have really asked for much better. Just one other point while we're on that. So, it's been talked about as part of this whole kind of COVID-19 lockdown situation that maybe next season will be played behind closed doors as well. And a lot of people, pundits alike, had kind of raised the question of, the fans are super, super important to Liverpool, particularly at Anfield. And how would Liverpool fare if, for example, next season is totally behind closed doors? And if this game is anything to go by, then I think we should be fine. We had that intensity. Maybe, we kind of, Jurgen Klopp got into the players before and kind of go, we need to make up for the Merseyside derby. But we played really, really well, and as well as we have all season behind closed doors. So I think any fears that we have that maybe next season, one, we played on behind closed doors, and two, that we may not perform our best, I think those fears were put to bed in this game. And moving on and then into the second half, where it was kind of just more of the same, really. We carried on where we left off at the beginning of the first half. We were pressing really high. We're winning the ball back. Fabinho in particular was really, really good at that. Jordan Henderson as well, and Joe Gomez as well. Really kind of just getting into the faces of the Crystal Palace players, pinching the ball back, and just giving them no rest, which essentially kind of just, that was what really wore them down. And pretty much got us the third and fourth goals, I would say. So the third goal was, they kind of backed off Fabinho. They made that mistake in the first half, and he was able to clip the ball over the top into Salah. But this time, he smashed the ball from, I'd say, about 30 yards. We have seen that from him in the past. Obviously, the Man City goal that he scored earlier this season at Anfield as well. We know he has that in his locker, and he's got some real swaz. And he's got some real techers, he does, Fabinho, particularly with his strikes from long range. So that was really, really great and positive to see. And I think if the game wasn't already over after that third goal, it was kind of very much over, and it just became the kind of Liverpool show after that. And we were kind of just passing the ball around, kind of making chances at will. We made a couple of chances after the fourth goal, but the fourth goal was a perfect example of why, what I was talking about at the beginning in terms of the balance of the team, why that front three just works together. They have that relationship, they have that connection. We saw, it was Mane into Firmino into Salah, the Salah into Mane, and then Mane finishing it off, and all of that just kind of flowed and worked together, and they didn't have to think twice about it. It was all kind of one touch passing, and that's the type of instinctiveness that those front three have. And it's been talked about the kind of drop off between our front three and the backup. So, Minamino, Origi, etc. And there just isn't that connection between kind of the backups, let's say, for us. And I don't think we can expect backups to be at that level and accept being a backup. So we'll have to, we have to accept some drop off. But it's kind of like the debate still goes on as to whether that drop off is too big. And games like the Everton one, where we're just missing one of the front three, we showed how much of a difference it makes to our kind of our play and kind of how we go about winning a game. So yeah, it was great to see them, all three of them, back. Great to see Salah play 90 minutes as well. But yeah, that fourth goal really showed that kind of connection between the front three, and we've spent many episodes of Let's Talk Liverpool, as well as it's been covered in the media a lot about how important that front three is and why they're the best in the world. And that fourth goal for me against Crystal Palace was the best example as to why those three are the best front three in the world as a combination. Obviously, individually, you've got players like the Barcelona front three, for example, or maybe even the Juventus front three or something like that. But as a combination, I think they are the best three in the world. So I want to end up today's episode, as we always do, guys, with a shout out to Jurgen Klopp. This is kind of the part of Let's Talk Liverpool where I kind of may give some of my advice to Jurgen Klopp. I haven't obviously won any league titles. I'm not a football manager, but from what I see, and kind of my experience of watching Liverpool now for over 20 years, I give my advice. And I think for me, the shout out to Klopp is actually very, very simple. I think injuries permitting, I think we need to keep this 11 working together for the rest of the season. I know obviously we'll look to rotate some more players, particularly if we do wrap up the league, by next week, for example, which we very much could do. But it will be really, really good to kind of, keep that core nucleus of players together, and just keep ramming it home and getting them more and more comfortable playing with each other, because they've showed how effective they can be when they are all kind of playing together. So that was really, really positive to see. And on the final point, my man of the match for the game, for me, it was Fabinho. We saw his assist and we saw his goal, and his kind of all-round play was so amazing. His passing was spot on. His kind of pinching the ball back and really pressurising the Crystal Palace midfield and defenders was amazing. And I think, he just continued to show us why he's so important to the team, and why he's kind of one of the first names on the team sheet. So that's it for this episode, guys, of Let's Talk Liverpool. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and you're following the podcast to make sure you don't miss any other episodes. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.